Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. But this is not just any other episode. This is our 100th episode. Cue music. Da, 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 da. Yeah, so I can't believe that this is like 100 episodes, but here we are. So thank you all for helping me get to 100 episodes, and I'm crazy excited about my guest today because she was one of my very first guests when we first started. And we didn't know each other from a hole in the wall. And now we're great friends and we collaborate. And so I'm super excited. So I'm going to read her bio and bring her on. Okay. So Kim Russo stands as the visionary force behind On Brand Designs, an exclusive design studio nestled in the vibrant heart of Charleston, South Carolina. As the founder, CEO, and lead designer, she not only shapes visual experiences, but also empowers her clients and team. Kim is also the creator of the Profitable Brand Designer course, teaching creatives how to switch their mindset from freelancer to entrepreneur and create a profitable design business. She began her career working for top packaging design agencies in New York City after getting her degree from the Fashion Institute of Technology in packaging design. In 2018, after spending her entire career in corporate, Kim decided she was ready to make a bigger impact on a smaller scale. She left the Big Apple and started On Brand Designs, which launched in September 2018. Kim moved to Charleston in 2020 and has been focused on growing her business ever since. Her areas of expertise include brand strategy, brand identity, website design, print graphics, and packaging design. She loves creating scroll-stopping designs for female entrepreneurs that make you say out loud, "Ooh, I love that." And they do, because she does all of our websites. When she's not busy working, Kim enjoys crafting, painting, pet portraits, and laying on the beach or by the pool with her friends and family and hanging out with me. So without further ado, let's meet Kim.
Yay! Thanks for having me on your 100th episode.
I know. It's crazy that it's like 100 already. Like I think about it and, you know, like how this whole thing, you know, started when people were like, you need to do a podcast. And I was like, I never need to do a podcast. And then I remember I called Kofi and I was like, okay, I'm ready. And he came over the following week and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do this thing, whatever this thing is. And then we were like, what do we call it? I don't know, you know, and then it hit us. Oh, the Cookbook, duh. And then recipes for success, duh. You know, so it all kind of like fit in, and then figuring out, you know, what it was going to be about. And since I was getting back into entrepreneurship, well, not getting back into it, but reigniting gas stove, if you will.
There you go.
You know, I felt that it should, right? It should all be brand consistent.
Yeah.
And here we are 2 years later, like we didn't know each other. And now we've been working together for almost 2 years.
I know. And I feel so special to be on your 100th episode. Although I'm pretty sure I forced you to, because when you said you were doing 100, I was like, I want to be your 100th.
You didn't force me. You said, oh, can I be your 100th? And I was like, duh, yeah, absolutely. So,
which is super impressive. I'm only on episode 12 and I feel like I've been doing my podcast forever. So I don't know. It's quite an achievement.
I think it's like, because, you know, this isn't monetized, and a lot of people have been giving me a hard time about that. Like, oh, you know, you're not making money off of it. But for me, this has always been a passion project. So,
but you get to connect with so many people this way, and that opens up the doors. So if you really were to go track some sort of KPIs, which I don't really know how to do that very well, but if you were to go and look at all the people that you've connected with just on your podcast, okay, take me, for example, Matt, you had me on your podcast and now I work with you, you know, creating brands that bring in revenue. So
that's true, right? Websites and brand design and logos and all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there, you monetized your podcast via me.
There we go. Well, I monetized you.
But because of your podcast, we connected even further. And then this collaboration was born. So
that's very true. That's very true. But yeah, this is just, and I think, when I started it, it was like really important to me, I think, for people to realize that entrepreneurship is not like for the weak of heart, because I ran across so many people that were like, and I wasn't where I am now then, right? Like when, we first met, I was getting restarted after a couple of failed partnerships and whatever. And I knew that I wanted this iteration to be different, but I also knew that this one was going to succeed. Right? It was like there was, in my mind, there was no option for this to fail. And it was getting the right people in my orbit, like you, right? And others. And I think that, when it came down to the podcast, it was like, this is not like overnight success. They don't happen, right? It takes like 10 years. And I really wanted people to understand that, because when I did restart this and I started meeting people, there's a co-working studio in town, and this guy Mark Lowe does these like entrepreneur classes, and he asked me to speak a couple of times. Now I speak whenever he has them. But in the beginning, they were like, I want to be my own boss, and I don't want to have to work 40 hours, and I don't want to. And I laughed, and I laughed.
You're going to work 120 hours,
right? It's like I'd rather work 120 hours for myself than 40 hours, for somebody else with benefits and whatever. But and I remember one guy was like, "What's so funny?" I said, "You're going to be breaking your ass for at least 8 years, like at least 8 years, like." I said, "Do me a favor. Here's my card." And I gave him my card. I said, "I want you to call me in a year and let me know, are you working for somebody else? Are you still doing your business or trying to get your business off the ground? And how many hours a week are you working?"
Did he call?
He called. And he said, "You were right." He goes, "I am working harder than I ever worked in my life." I said, "But the difference is
so much more rewarding too."
Right. And that's what we talked about was, you're not doing it for somebody else. You're doing it for yourself, for your future. And that's what you did.
Yeah. And honestly, I do work a lot, but I also play a lot, and I position myself to be closed on Fridays, and I only work if I am doing nothing else, because I don't know how to do nothing.
Right. We're working on my stuff.
So I work in the nothing times. I work.
Yeah. And I do too. And it's like, Heather, it's so funny because for a while I was stopping at like 5:30. Like, but if she gets home like 6:00, whenever she got home, I was stopping. Because I could, like, I was just at a point where it was like, I don't have to work past this point. And then we started getting busy again, like over the summer, remember? And it was like, shit, I can't. So, and it was summer.
Which came at a great time for me. You saved my butt.
Right. But for us, it was like, summer, and she wanted to go out and throw the ball with me and the dogs. And I'm in here working on stuff with, our clients. And it was like, I got to do this. And so she started getting pissy. And, I was like, look, I don't have that privilege. Like, I gave that up. And now, I always say, we're unhireable, right? Like, we can never work for anybody again.
I'd be a terrible employee.
Oh my God. I'd be fired the first day. I'd be like, what the fuck do you mean do that? You do that, right? Yeah. You get your own damn thing.
Mine is more like a time thing. Like, I don't like to be told when to be somewhere. And so, although my clients dictate my schedule all the time, but it's also, I have control over it. It's like a balance of control and pleasing the client, but
right.
Totally different than like, be here at 9 a.m. for no reason.
Or let's go to this meeting just to hear me talk. And then you can go on with the rest of your day. I remember I was working for one guy. All he wanted to do was meet. And I was like, you realize that we're meeting and we're getting nothing else done? He's like, well, this is important. No. Getting out there, getting stuff done is important. We have these meetings. What are we doing? Nothing. We're listening to you talk.
Yeah.
You know,
I've actually tried to cut down. My calendar's booked all the time, but mostly right now it's been, personal development, some client calls, sales calls, mastermind calls, things like that. That's what ends up filling my calendar, and the meet and greets, the one-to-ones. But once I sign on a client, there's not a ton of time on meetings because I've set it up to where I don't have to. I do the Loom videos. I get as much information in the beginning.
Those Loom videos are amazing.
Yeah. And getting all of that stuff so that I can work on the creatives and get it all and understand the client in the beginning. I have the questionnaires and I have the strategic brand planner. So getting all that stuff, I can, figure it out pretty quickly, send a Loom video, avoid a meeting, and only have a meeting if it's absolutely 100% necessary. And set it up in a process too that I can get edits back from clients where it's just an email or a couple notes. So that part has been nice to kind of control that way. So if a client's thinking they need to meet every time, showing them a process, they can understand they don't have to.
Right. And there are some people, we do have a client that, we did a Loom video and then I ended up walking her through it, but that's okay, right? Because there are some people that will never get what we do, no matter what we do. So those are the people that we kind of have to hold their hands and be like, okay, this is how you do it. Yeah. And I actually don't mind that, especially for pleasant people. I don't mind. But yeah, I think that, Loom definitely, and I'll do the same thing now. I'll send somebody something and be like, hey, go here, do this, especially, with onboarding now, we're really getting an onboarding system down finally. But, working through that, and that's the other thing, right? People don't I never thought of processes. I never thought I was like, okay, you're signing on. We're going to do your website. We're going to do your SEO. We're going to do, your video production. And here's our Stripe link. Just, pay and let's go. I never thought of, onboarding somebody and having, so now we're setting up, folders for them, right? And getting all the stuff thanks to the fantastically great Krista Grasso. And Kim Woods really also kind of, because she's a client and she was like, your onboarding process sucks. You don't have one.
I tried in the beginning. We worked together to give you my questionnaire and set up these forms and things like that, but it wasn't your process. So I think it was hard for you to adapt to. So,
but I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I didn't get
that it was needed.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's definitely needed, but
yeah.
And so, yeah, but to hear somebody be like, that sucks, you're like, oh, well, crap, I guess it's time to grow up, right? Or, whatever it is. So, gas stove is really grown up. I've grown up as a business person, completely different than who I was even, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I think that you really, if you really want to learn who you are, start a business because, right? You learn everything about yourself. You learn your mettle. You learn your.
I think, it's also how you go with it. I feel so much more empowered and air quotes smarter.
Yeah.
Because you've had.
Look at who we surround ourselves with, right?
Yeah. But it's having to grow and learn something new every single day and keep trying to improve processes, improve, any sort of work that's produced and just continuing to elevate and do better. So it's a constant, I was at an event the other night and I was talking and everyone's like, oh my God, you're so right. The more I evolve in my business, the more I get people saying oh my gosh, paying attention to things that I'm saying, listening to what I'm saying. I'm almost become a business coach to friends at this point too, because I've learned so much in business. So besides being a creative, each challenge has taught me something that I'm like, wow, I actually am smart. You know?
I mean, you're very smart, but I think that what happens with us is that, and I'm not even say imposter syndrome because I don't think it's imposter syndrome, but I think that,
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt and that like, so for me, I get like down, I was talking to Allison O'Brien and I took her listening test, and I'm a strategic listener. So I listen, and I'm very, all my Google reviews are like, people work with me because I really listen, and that's how we figure the stuff out and get them the results that we get, right? So, but what I do is I listen, and then like in the back of my brain as I'm listening, my brain is already working on, whatever is going on.
Yeah.
So whether it's strategy, whether it's the messaging, like it's the craziest thing, right? So I get these like downloads and it comes out. And what I've found is that in the last year, I have guided so many people to starting their own business, or like my dermatologist. This is like my favorite story. I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to get her in trouble, but she was my dermatologist for years. And like 3 years ago, it was like right when, as COVID was like ending, I was like, you don't need to be here. You need to be doing your own thing. And she just kind of like looked at me. And she goes, maybe. And then like a year later, she's like, I think I'm going to do my own thing. And then when I went to see her.
Oh, so she worked for a practice and you were telling her to go on her and start her own practice. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so 6 months later, or 6 months ago, I saw her and she goes, I'm doing my own thing. I was like, oh my God. She's like, and if it wasn't for you, I never would have done it, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so to be able to, give that to somebody, right? I think it's a gift that we get to go out and be free and do your thing. And it's going to be a lot of work, but it is so rewarding because it's for you. You're doing it for you and for your family and you're not working for somebody else and making them money, because at the end of the day, that's what we were doing. We were like breaking our ass and making somebody else money.
Yeah.
So
I always encourage people to do their own thing. But you also have to have the right mindset. I mean, that's what I teach the first thing I teach in the course that I created is the mindset portion, because you've got to be able to endure a lot and face rejection and go through the highs and lows and work your butt off. Like you have to do it. But I mean, that actually inspired Jeremy, my boyfriend, to leave his corporate life and be his own independent. He's doing a few different things. He does, Medicare, health insurance. He still does some annuities, but he was working for a financial company that he was restricted to do a lot of things. And he was like, I see what you're doing and the impact you're making and the potential that you have and the growth that I've had. And he was inspired to do that. And so now he's adopted my habits to work on the couch till midnight. And
he still manages to bring you lunch and dinner.
Still manages to cook me every single meal, clean up, do the dishes. He still gets that done too.
We'll be like on a Zoom call, and all of a sudden Jeremy comes in and hands her this like luscious meal, and I'm like, the hell, I have like DoorDash or whatever. So.
Well, part of it, I mean, actually, we recorded the first episode together, or the last episode we did together. I'm pretty sure I was still in my apartment, right?
You were, yep.
Yeah. So I was having to fend.
You've gone through a lot of changes.
Yeah. I had to fend for myself then.
That's right.
But now I'm in a she shed, and you actually were the first person besides family to see my shed before. I think it was just actually delivered. So you really were. You were in town, and was so excited to show you. There was no like the paneling behind me and everything. None of that was there. Was just the two wood. And,
And you were explaining where and you're like, I know this thing is here, but this is going to be this, and this is going to be this. And the way that you were describing it, I could like picture it. I remember the only thing was the TV. Remember, I was like, should you get a really big TV on the wall? And you were like,
I do have one, and I've turned it on twice in almost 2 years. So because this is my space to work. And honestly, my most creative time is in the evenings and weekends because I'm not talking to anybody. Nobody's like, don't distract me. I am in it, and I will have the TV on. But when I'm in my shed, it's like, it's more, even though it's my creative space, but it's more quiet work that I'm like answering emails, on calls. So it'd be a huge distraction to constantly turn the TV on and off. So, and it's things that I'm usually like need to be in the zone and writing things and, stuff like that it's really hard to have the TV on. And I thought maybe I'd hang out here a little bit more and like catch up on my Bravo at night, but I don't need it anymore. I just go in and, I only see Jeremy when he brings me my food. So, I do enjoy those times that I go outside.
I wasn't thinking of it for like watching TV. I was thinking of it like, having stuff on a big screen as you're working on stuff or showing somebody their website or.
So I don't have a ton of clients that come in here, but I have done a couple of VIP days in here. And yes, that I have used it for that. So I cast to the TV so they can see what I'm working on. So they're not like hovering over me and they can see it. But for me to work, it's too far away to actually like see the detail.
Yeah. But taking like client meetings and stuff.
But like I'll have friends come over and we'll like have some wine and cheese out here or something, but not a ton, not as much as I thought. But I am in here all day long and go in at dark. So, but yeah, it's been an awesome. You've been here for this whole journey and to apartment to shed. But it's a really cool shed. So
it is. It's very cool, and I think I didn't see it after it was done. I only saw it before.
It's on my Instagram. I pinned it. Yeah. Pinned the before and after video on my Instagram on Brand Designs.
That's right. I have the pictures on my phone that that I took, and there it was like Kim She Shed.
There's been some press about it, and
the fence was still down at that point.
Had a Dames event here with people to come over and see it. Nice. So it's been a popular part of me. So everyone's like, what's a fun fact? It used to be I paint custom pet portraits. Now it's I work in a she shed. I work in a she shed.
But it's so cool. I'm still in my, well, actually. No,
well, you've had your whole logo redone. You had your old logo on the wall, and then
that's right. And then you redid my logo because it was time to rebrand it. And it's funny because somebody was like, "Oh, you went through a full rebranding," and I said, "No, I changed my logo because my brand has always been, what it is."
We kept the same colors, we kept the same concept, but we brought a little bit of more view into it. So one of the things I like to do is like bring, especially for small businesses, is bring a little bit of your personal brand into it. Mm-hmm. And so you had this whole like cool rocker style and still with the cooking aspect. So we brought it in and created a mood board for you that like captured you first. Yep. And then created a logo that was still close to what you had to not totally depart from that, I guess, recognition that people have gotten to know you so far in your business. And so it was just a little bit of tweaks that we kind of, did to bring a little bit of that edginess and clean it up a little bit too. So,
well, yeah. And the first website was very generic, right? It was very like the colors were there, but there was no me there. And then when I went down to Charleston and we did the photo shoot, man, I remember the logo. I was like blown away by. And I remember when you were doing the website and you were like, "Oh, it's done." And I looked at the homepage and I was like, "Oh, shit, that's big. That's me." I was like, my profile.
You only had stock photos before, none of you.
I know. So it was all me. And it was just like staggering. I was like, holy crap, that's, me. And one of the things I'm going to probably do a keynote on next year has to do with that. And it has to do with the, looking at the website and going, oh shit, that's me. To, 2 weeks later, it was like, oh shit, that's me. Right? It's like, that's me. That's my brand. That's like, I can't tell you how many people, look at that site, and with the new pictures, it's going to be that much better. Right. But, they look at the site and they're like, I really want to work with her. Like, that's who I want to work with. And I've gotten so many clients from that.
Well, that's the thing that was missing. It was like, it was a faceless business and there was the connection piece that was missing. So unless you were a huge corporation that had like franchises and all these things, like that's not you. And so I was like, people are coming to work with you for you. And then you help them with all the rest of their marketing things, but they're coming to you first.
Right.
They could go anywhere to get, their marketing done, but they're coming there for you. And so having that connection and that relatability, that's the first window to somebody knowing who you are, seeing your picture, seeing how you show up, seeing if that's somebody that they feel like they can connect to. So right alone off the bat, that's going to bring you business and deter the business you don't want too. So that's another thing that's like people don't talk about. It's like you also want to, I dealt with that with a hair salon. She was attracting clients she didn't want. She wanted a more edgier, younger crowd, the young working professional that understood technology and her policies and things that aren't typical with your old hair salon. And so we had to just do some minor tweaks to the website, and it wasn't necessarily about who she wanted to attract. It was like who she didn't want to attract. So having that too, it's really dialing into like who is the right fit for you.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't talk about that. You're right. And it's, hey, who's my ideal client and who's not? And the not sometimes is more important, because when you're with the wrong client, they're taking up time that you could be with the right client, because it shows up within a month or two, or maybe even 3, that this is not the right client for you.
Yeah.
And by that point, you're already in it. And it's like, oh, shit, I didn't see this coming. So that's why I'm really, I don't just work with anybody. And, all of my clients are like amazing. I don't think we've had one client that, well, one, but other than that, that's been not fun to work with on some level or another.
Yeah, and I think starting with your brand when we started our collaboration together really set the tone of how we were able to work with everybody else, because that was kind of your benchmark. Like, look at, Kim's doing my designs and look at what we did together here. And it's been a great case study for the clients to look at and see how that, kind of correlates to your personality. And so every client that we've worked on together, there is, the logos are meant for their target audience, but I've tried with everybody to bring in some sort of story or, even if it's color or where they're located or, what type of offerings they have, like tried to bring some sort of personal element into it so that they're not only attracting their client, but they're loving it and they're feeling confident in it. And it's just, it's fun.
It's like, I think Michelle was our first one that we did together, right?
Yeah.
And like she still,
she's still one of your clients like 2 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And keeps, so
and she signed on for next year.
Yeah. So it helps with that longevity too, to produce the, such a solid foundation too.
Well, yeah. And I think that because I'm fully relationship based, like for me, it's like, if I can't have a relationship with my client, then I don't want to work with them, because if I can't get that relationship, then there's that, then it becomes transactional, and I don't ever want it to be transactional. That's like, to me, that feels icky.
Yeah.
For what? Because I think, what we do is really personal, right? It's their personal brand. It's how they show up. It's how they show up online. It's how they show up on, whatever, we're doing. And so to me, that's really personal, and I take it really personal. Michelle was doing, a keynote and we filmed it up in Chicago, and the sound was awful. So I was going to be in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
So I borrowed, Gary's equipment, and I, brought it out to Denver, and I did her keynote, and it came out like shot. He gave me a crash course in my driveway. My neighbors are like, "Ooh, what are they filming over there?" And I'm like, "I'm just getting trained. It's nothing, nothing great." But but to go that extra mile, right? And the added value. Yeah, I'm gonna bring these freaking 20-pound tripods out, and we're gonna, get your thing on, and we're gonna get you, what you need. And to me, I think that, it.
Yeah.
Do you hear that? Okay. So yeah, so for me, it's all about being able to bring them value. And then we went for lunch after, right? So we just hung out. It was like, oh my God, it's so good to see you and hang out. And I'm in I'm in Denver, and so yeah. So getting back to the podcast, what advice do you have for an entrepreneur? Somebody thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Do the mindset stuff first. No. I say do it. I'd say my biggest thing that I've learned, and I'm still learning, and this is not a problem that everybody has, but I think it does tend to creep up with entrepreneurs, is making sure that your boundaries are clear and setting boundaries and revisiting them when they start to drift, because, boundaries with yourself too. I have to, revisit that with myself so I don't burn myself out, because I tend to do that. And that's just a personality thing. I'm a manifesting generator, and I like to be busy, and I'm working through that. But I think just as any entrepreneur, you tend to take on a lot just for the sake of getting business in. And really, especially in the beginning, when you're going through business, like being really clear and mindful of that, and writing down or whatever, saying it out loud, whatever is comfortable for you, but really laying out what those goals and those boundaries are, so that you make sure that you can stick with it, because it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
You definitely need to be somebody who is okay with the lulls, and can understand that everything is something that passes over time when there are lulls. And then when there are highs, to continue to stay not too high, so that you're, one of the things that I always have to balance out is, in my busiest season, when I'm so busy, I cannot neglect the times for acquiring new clients and sales calls. Because in those moments, you get very, you can get very overwhelmed, and you're busy, and you're trying to take care of the current clients. But once those ends, unless you have a system or model that is continuous, and anybody could leave at any moment, but you have to make sure that you're constantly engaging, and you're constantly showing up, and you're networking, and you're being visible, and you're getting out there and doing all of the things to continue to grow while servicing those clients. But in both those areas, there's boundaries too that you have to set to make sure that there's a balance. So.
Yeah. And it's funny, because I think in the beginning, you want to take everybody that you can, because you need that money, right? You have to start building that. So when you get to the point that, the boundaries are important. I think the biggest boundary for me is, unless it's somebody who's given you permission, or I've given permission to, right?
Right.
Don't call me 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night for something completely,
right.
It's not going to be handled. I remember years ago when I first started this. So it was like 2014. I had this one client, and I don't care. She was a massage therapist. And she was from out of the country, right? So she was new. And because she was new and all of that stuff, I wanted to help her. So I did a lot of added value, like a lot of added value. So, you know, and I remember she had like this mark that her master, I guess, gave her, because they have masters of Messiah, whatever it is. And it was like this mark. So I brought it to, at the time, this was way before I knew you, but I brought it to this company that I was working with, a printing company that I was working with, to digitize it. And they wanted like $700 to digitize this thing because it was like on a glass. It was like this whole thing. And so they were like, well, it's you. We'll do it for like $300. And I was like, okay. So I told her, I said, you know, it's going to be $300. She's like, okay. I said, and then we'll put that on your business card. So we were going to design her business card and everything. So we designed the business card, and she was like, I love it. Great. I'll take 1,000 business cards. So I said, great, you know. So I bring her the business cards, and I tell her, yeah, it's going to be $200. And she goes, for what? I said, for the business cards? She said, well, you said you weren't charging me for that. I said, no. I said I wasn't charging you for the setup. But you have to pay for the cards.
Yeah.
And she didn't get it. And then I had to send her an email. And I still have the email because that reminds me of setting the boundaries, right? And I literally listed every single thing that I did for her. And when I looked at everything that I did for her, if I would have charged her for it, it would have been easily $15,000. Easily $15,000.
15,000 or 1,500?
Oh no! By the time I was done with all the time and everything with the website and SEO and setting everything up, and I went and I took pictures for her.
Wow.
For my own.
Yeah.
On the weekend. I mean, it easily would have been $15,000. And today it would have been like $20,000, right? I mean, it was just, and I listed everything out, and I said, you know, I never got a thank you.
Yeah. And
for me, that was the minute or the moment that I was just like, I need to start. Yeah.
And that's something that's always a work in progress. But I remember there was a couple clients, like we having to work together to set boundaries with clients because we're partnering. And so I remember there was a couple clients in the beginning that we had to be like, okay, typically it's 2 rounds of edits. We're in round 10.
7.
So figuring out a balance to manage that so it didn't, and I don't think since then we've had any real issues.
No, because we know we're like, this is how much you get, and if you're doing any more, it's going to cost. Because
it's having a backbone to be like, okay, I've done my part. The part that is taking a while has nothing to do with design, has nothing to do with anything that we've done. It's the indecisiveness or expectations of something that's not even possible. So I think it's having that pushback without offending anybody. There's a balance between that and keeping that relationship going. So
yeah,
that's why kind of setting those expectations and boundaries before. I mean, with everything that I do, I say 2 rounds of edits. Now, do I always only stick to 2 rounds of edits? No, because you want to make your client happy, but they're within reason. Like if it's just change a few words here and there or change a color, like that is not, but when it's completely restructure, redesign, redo all these things that was agreed upon already, that's when you have to really be clear in the beginning. This is not what a change means. A change means, swap out some photos.
Well, and I know that like construction workers have change orders, right? So when they're like working on a house or they're doing something, there's a change order. And that's something that I want to adopt because I think that, like you said, if it's like copy or if it's a picture or something, but if they want something completely redone, that's a restructuring. That's like a change.
Yeah.
So,
and then like once your brand is done and your site is live, I do say that there's a 72-hour window of any edits because there might be glitches or a link wasn't linked properly. And that's just normal stuff. But it's also like, when do you gauge how far after to be like, hey, okay, we are done. Like this project is done. So it's being really clear on that boundary of like, we are done. Now, if you want to add this blog or add this thing in, like it's an additional fee. It's not a lifetime of work.
free services. Well, what I'm starting to do now is, and we'll talk about this, but I'm starting to add on maintenance programs.
Yeah.
Because, if it's a simple edit, no. But I mean, I think that more people need them than not, because it's not always just a simple edit. It's like a big change. And I think that, so that's something I'm going to be adding. Thank you, Krista. That's what I mean, right? As we grow in our businesses, we experience things that make us go, okay, we need to change this. We need to, do this.
Yeah, that's something that I'm going to add to just for my own clients, because, and Krista actually suggested that too, and some other people. It's because they're coming back to me and I'm like, well, it's just a couple of changes. How much do I really charge for this? Because it didn't take that long, but it's still taking me time. It's taking out of my day. And so there has to be some sort of like compensation for that. So, I think it's definitely a great idea to do. There are months that maybe no work needs to be done. And so that's why there's like a balance of how much, you charge to do it one month, not the next month. But I think adding that in is going to be a good, not necessarily value to the client, but it's a protection to us service providers.
Yeah, but I think it's a value to the client too, because if they don't use something for 1 month and then like another month they need like a lot, they've already paid for it, right?
Yes, so that's true. That's where it becomes the value. But that's where you have to protect the boundary, is how much there has to be a limit on how much.
Well, that's what I mean. So for like 3 hours of maintenance, it's going to cost this much per month. Yep. 3-4 hours tops, right? And then, and that's why I'm doing it, is because, like we have projects that are coming up, and I already know, so it's like, just put it in place, and it protects you too, right? And because my model is different. Do you hear an echo? Because I hear this like massive echo on my end.
No, I heard the dogs barking, but
nope, that's okay. This is me. It's like, no, I forgot what I was saying.
It protects me.
Oh, just like part of growth is like looking at what worked, what didn't work, right? What do you need to, and for my model, right, I work with all contractors. I work with you, right? I work with other people.
Yep.
And what's going to be fair to you?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, I want to keep you happy. At the same time, you want to keep me happy, but we have to, like I have to put stuff in place that's not going to be taking advantage of you. And people don't.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So many people don't get that.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that, that's why I'm putting that stuff in place. Is that, but that came with growth,
Yeah, it's not like you're the gatekeeper. You're the gatekeeper for everybody you work with, and you are, when it's somebody coming that's working with you, like you're the mom, like, lack of a better term. You're like you have to be the one that protects and takes care of, and I since I have my own business, I know how to manage clients and everything. But when it comes to people that are your clients, it's your relationship that matters. And so I want to make sure I'm doing good by you. So I'm protecting your relationship with everybody. If that makes sense.
And you do.
Like I'm a representative of you. So, and vice versa. So.
Right. And that's the thing is, because you meet with my clients,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's a big deal to me because, when people work with me, they expect a certain quality, they expect a certain professionalism, and for me to put somebody customer facing is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I love it though. I just love how we've gotten into this rhythm, and I can text you whenever and you're like, yeah, not this week, or whatever, and it's okay,
Yeah.
right? Like my website. We're talking for a little bit
Yeah, it
after
took
this.
time to build that up as we got to know each other. I mean, we're real close at this point. We won't go into some of the details, but I'll talk.
No, we're not gonna go into details.
But like, you know, we'll just say it. I'll be like, I need a bathroom break. You can come with me on the phone.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's fitting.
I don't do that with anybody though. The only person I do that with, I think, is Heather.
But it's because my time, like I'm constantly busy, and like I make time wherever I can for you. And, and I feel comfortable enough with you that we have such a great relationship, and we work together, we laugh together. We we've seen me on a verge of extreme burnout, and you've seen me in my most creative moments. And so I feel, going back to those boundaries, comfortable with you to set those boundaries and be like, listen, I can't do it right now because I'm about to explode.
Right.
And you understand, but if it is something that is a priority, and like your site's down or a client site's down, if it's a priority, I will step in and I will do it as soon as I'm humanly possible able to.
which you've done. And I usually preface everything with, like if it's something that needs to be done, like now it's like, okay, this is like a now thing. Holy crap, this is broken.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like when you get a chance, because, but, and even just on design, because, one of my other clients, you do all the design. So for their, and it's it was a big client, and they've gone through a lot of changes, and you've, up-leveled their logo and a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny, because I look back at the 2 years, and I remember a year ago, you were like, at that point, you were like burnt. And I remember I felt like I said to Heather, I'm like, am I pushing her too hard? Like, I didn't want to push you too hard. I didn't know what to do. Right. I was like, I don't know, this needs to get done, but I don't want to push you. And I remember, we talked, actually we Zoomed, and I think it was just like, tell me what you need and how I can support you, but we need to get shit done. So how do we do both?
Yeah, so I got to a point, and I was even like, if you need other help, get other help, because I was just overwhelmed and overloaded, which, it was just tough. And I was like, help, I can't do this right now. And I had to be clear and honest with you. I mean, I usually keep that from everybody that I work with. I am just the doer, the getter, doner, the make everybody happy. Like that I'm a people pleaser to the core. And it got to the point where I just had to be real with you and be like, I'm trying, but I have too much to do. And, it was, it was important. Almost exactly a year ago.
Literally. Yeah, pretty much. And I think that the fact that we could have that conversation speaks to our relationship, right? Because a lot of people wouldn't feel comfortable having that conversation, or they'd be afraid, or, whatever. And it's like,
oh yeah, there's people that I still do not have that conversation with, but that goes back to my rule about boundaries is I've been getting better at it. I've been clearer. And if I keep that from you, you don't know. And so that's on me.
Right. And that's what I tell my clients is, if I can't fix something if I don't know that it's broken. I've had a lot of people, not a lot of people, but a few clients like not say anything until they were like pissed.
Yeah.
And I remember one conversation that I had, it was like so funny. Because I knew this person well, and I was pretty much like, why the fuck did you wait?
Yeah.
And they were like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not a mind reader.
Yeah.
If you don't tell me, like I tell everybody as soon as I start working with them, friend, whatever, as honest as I am with you, I need you to be with me. Because if you're doing something that I don't think you should be doing, I will tell you that you shouldn't be doing it, right?
Yeah.
And if we're not hitting the mark on something, you need to tell me.
Yeah.
Because if you don't tell me, then I can't fix it. And when I had that conversation, I just remember the look on her face was like, oh, I was like,
oh, Heather's face.
No, my client.
Oh, your client's face. Okay.
No, not Heather. She always tells me what. No, trust me. There's no filter with her. There's like, no. But because, my client waited until she wasn't happy. And it was like a 2-month period that finally, and I went, why didn't you tell me as soon as you were feeling that? Well, I didn't want to upset you. That doesn't upset me. This upsets me because you've been upset for 2 months and I'm not a mind reader.
Well, and I think that's why now working on those boundaries, I've gotten better. And it's not just with you. You've just gave me a safe space to talk to you about it. Is setting, I'm like somebody who I wants to get it done for everybody as quickly as I can. But like, I have lots to do.
Right.
And so before I would just push myself to do it. And now I have to be very mindful of my time. What's a priority? What's not a priority? What I can like manage my schedule as best as possible. And so since then, and again, not with other clients too, I can be a little bit more intentional and better of like, what can I practically get done and done well too? So that's when I push back and I'm like, I will get it done. I will always get it done. It's just not when I'm on calls for 5 hours and have a deadline. Right. So I think that was my fault of not being honest and just saying yes too much and instead of like, yes, but not now.
Right. And I think that's awesome because, people in general are people pleasers and they're miserable because they just want to keep pleasing and they don't take care of themselves. And at the end of the day, if we don't take care of ourselves, how do we help somebody else?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so I remember when you came to me, I felt bad because I knew that probably 70% of that was me.
No, there were other factors too.
Well, yeah, but okay, I'll take 60% because there was a lot going on. We had a lot going on. We had a lot of projects, and a couple of them were a little bit demanding. That were like, holy,
Yeah.
I remember when I got off the phone with one of the clients. Oh no, they sent us an email, and I remember I called you. I was like, I am so like I had no idea it was going to be like this. No idea.
But I think we learned a lot from those. I mean, that was our first time really. I mean, it was my first time really partnering somebody in that capacity. I'm used to working with clients solo by myself,
Yep.
Like I have a little bit of a team, but not much. And, so doing a lot of it myself. And so working with somebody else, we had to really figure out a good stride. And I think that's also what helped is we've learned from some of the ways to manage certain clients when we're working on it together. So, I mean, that was huge too, to kind of, figure out that and set the tone from the beginning.
Yeah. Because we had that one particular one that we did not set the tone and they just kept expecting. And it was like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually we had 2 of those, I think.
And I think it's just that they also dragged on for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so that's when it starts to get frustrating is when there's no end in sight.
Yeah. Well, there was one that they just, weren't happy with themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of came
But
out in the...
I will say pretty much every single project we work on, everybody at the end is super happy and appreciative.
Oh my God. Yeah. 100%. Like with the product, with the process, with the, with the whole thing, like, even after bullshit, happening, it's like, this was still one of the best experiences.
Yeah.
And it's like, yay on your end. Because man, it was...
Yeah. Well, it's also like knowing how to manage them and then learning from it and course correcting quickly so we could still deliver the best thing we could possibly do.
Yeah.
So.
But I think, learning that, for us to realize that, holy crap, there are really going to be these challenges that we didn't, we were just like, yeah, we're going to build a website. Everyone's going to be happy. We're going to change their brand. The logo is going to be great. And then it's like, wait, why isn't this easy? Why is this not going, easily? And I think that, it's one of those, like, for me, a big wake up call. That's when, for me, the business changed. Mm-hmm. It was like, yes, everything is relationship based. And yes, I can be everybody's friend to an extent, but I'm running a business. Yeah. And that was really hard. I remember, actually, it was Michelle. When we were working on her stuff, I remember I was like, well, like I wanted, and she's like, you own the business. You have to make money. You have to whatever. And I was like, okay, you're right. And, then I sent the proposal out, but, because like you, I want to make everybody happy, right? Or I did. I mean, I still do, but not at my expense anymore. And I think that was the difference, was that, it was at our expense. So we were trying to do all this stuff, and like we were getting burnt and we were getting frustrated and not taking care of this.
Yeah. And not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty good. So I think I elevated your offerings in your business.
I mean, you did. That's why I have you, because
reflective in, the level of, service and the level of quality should be raising pricing and raising all of that too, because you're delivering something and
100%.
Getting two for the price of one,
I mean, and at the end of the day, 2025 rates are going up, I mean, they have to. So, and that's the other thing, it's like when to know when it's okay. I know that we were waiting to have like 6-7 projects under our belt before I even thought about that. And now we have like way more than that, I think. So, and more coming, right? So you're counting, you're sitting there counting.
Oh, yeah. You see my eyes. It's definitely at least 10.
It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have them on my vision board on my thing. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there's probably another 3 coming up in the next. Well, there's definitely one coming up this week, right? And then actually there may be 2 this week because I have a meeting on Thursday. So, yeah. And I, that's the other thing is selling the business. Like, I remember I was talking to Kim. I was like, yeah, I think I want to hire a salesperson. She was like, no, like, in fact, like, not even like, no, you probably shouldn't do it. It was like a no, no, not yet. It needs to be you.
Yeah.
And she's right. For right now, it still needs to be me. I'll get to a point where, I can step back and not have to do that. But right now it's still, and that's why the website is going to be all me again, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, so.
Not to everybody out here, so you have to check her website out to see the new pictures soon.
That's right. Thank you, Carrie Ann Munstead. Unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. I have never, even the pictures, Anna Laura did, I didn't not like them, but I just didn't like me in pictures.
I don't think you were, that was your first, I think, official brand shoot. And I think that was still, the business was just kind of getting its stride, and you are so much more confident now. So that's a level of it too. It's like you are in it. I think that was, I think those images are great, but you're showing up differently.
It's a different level now. That's why I like, black leather. I did that as an homage to, the pictures and the photo shoot. But okay. So we're at an hour. Of course, it's crazy.
You're making fun of my microphone that I use.
Okay, I will. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to ask him the final question. But so we're doing this photo shoot. I'm like turning red. I can see this. Like I'm dying. Okay, do you see how I flushed? Okay, so we're doing this photo shoot in Charleston, and it's like 1,000 million degrees out, right? And I'm in whatever. And now it comes time to do the podcast shots. And so she pulls out this microphone, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I am not holding that thing. Like I am not, because okay, everybody listening to this knows I have a wife. I'm gay. This was the most phallic looking thing I have ever seen. And I'm like, I am not holding that by my mouth. I am not. There it is, right there. And it was like, you will see me sitting by it in some pictures, but I couldn't hold it. And it was like a whole thing. So we were dying. She was like, hold it closer to your mouth. I'm like, no, that's gross. So, but thank you so much for being my 100th guest and being my bud and, all the things. And you can find Kim on Instagram at On Brand Design. Everything is On Brand Designs. All things On Brand Designs. And yeah, you just, your friendship means a lot, and our collaboration means a lot. And, so thank you. I know. Big heart. Taylor, where are you? So it's sad, but okay. So, the last question I'm going to ask is, what lights your fire?
Oh,
you forgot that.
Oh, I kind of want to go back and listen to what I said before.
Oh man, I wonder if I could.
Yeah, but okay.
What we could do is say it, and then we can do like a side by side.
I think really what lights my fire is seeing others happy and succeed. In the most non-people pleasing way, because that still is who I am to the core, but giving and seeing people happy, just it's who I am, and it just makes me so excited. And so when I see like somebody succeed because of something that I inspired them to do or created, it just fills my cup.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's true. That's so you. All right, hang on. I'm going to say goodbye and come back. Everybody, thank you so much for 100 episodes hanging out for an hour plus. Still blows my mind that it's 100 episodes, but thank you, because I couldn't have gotten here without you. So keep watching and listening and downloading and review. Please review. And if you would, going to start something new here. Leave something in the comments, like a nugget that you've gotten, or like, something really cool that you've gotten from this episode. Because, when I talk to people, they're like, oh, I got this from it. And I got this from it. And it'd be really cool to see in the comments the different things that people have gotten. So if you could do that, that would be awesome. And again, thank you. I love you all. You all rock. And until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.